Greetings, everyone. Your cartoonist pal Stan here for the very first episode of a brand new live streaming series. Calling it 50 Years in the Dungeon, and it's to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, which is happening this year, 2024. And I came up with what I thought was a really good idea, and some friends of mine agreed. And they agreed so much that they're going to be here today so we can talk a little bit about what this new show is going to be. For those of you who don't know, I was an employee of TSR Incorporated during the last few years that it existed, and then went on to be an employee at Wizards of the Coast working on Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role playing games. I'm also a freelance author and cartoonist, which is why I introduce myself as your cartoonist pal. I'm trying to do more of that, and because that is going to be a big focus of what this show is about. But don't want to spoil that too much. Not just yet, anyway. So I've been working in the industry on gaming products and on a lot of D&D products since. Well, I've been in the industry professionally since the early '90s, and I've been working on D&D since 1996, I think. That's a long time. It's not 50 years, but it's getting close to half of that. Hello, Torin. Thank you for joining on. Hey, Linnea, glad you and the other lemons could join us for the show. The show is going to be like this, with me talking, which is maybe a little boring, which is why, as I say, I invited some friends to join me. So let me just come on over here and hit this magic button here, and we get our two friends, Jeff Grubb and Steve Winter. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this magical quest.
Glad to be here.
Now anyone who really is big into D&D probably knows you guys, but for the few out there who may be new, and maybe not so few, because D&D's popularity really has grown the last few years. How about a quick overview of who are you? Who are you, Jeff Grubb? You're muted. Is who you are. No. This is half an hour of tech practice.
Is he muted on his end or on your end?
I haven't touched anything on him since we started, so I don't see.
Try again.
There we go. Hello, Jeff.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Got myself tech muted on that. That's what happens in all Zoom meetings that I'm a part of. It's like a seance. Can you hear us? We are reaching out to you.
So now that
hi there,
all of Jeff Grubb.
We embarrass ourselves. Yes.
Now that your voice has returned, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeff Grubb.
Hi there. I'm Jeff Grubb. I'm an author and game designer. I've written game product and books and comic books and computer games and all manner of things. And I have almost been playing D&D for 50 years. I've played, started in 75. At Purdue University, the Wargamers Club. Soon had my own group that ran every Friday night for my tenure there. Started designing tournament modules for Gen Con. And from there was hired by TSR about 82 or so. That was, and since then I've worked on a raft of products for them. The original Dragonlance, the Gray Box for Forgotten Realms, Marvel Superheroes, bunch of stuff in a lot of different areas that have just been, really great. And since then I've worked, with other game companies, left TSR, came back to it when it became Wizards of the Coast. And right now I'm designing I'm a writer for Elder Scrolls Online, doing computer games, which is a lot of fun too.
Awesome.
That's the big overarch.
It's it's hard, right? When you've been in the
I
industry
know.
this long, it's how to condense 30 years into 2 minutes. How do you do it? You did
I
it with
I
aplomb.
hate writing bios. That's something that it does nothing for me. So
All right, and our over on my right, screen right, I guess here, Steve Winter.
Hey,
Hey,
so yeah, my story is not that much different from Jeff's. Really, I started playing D&D in the '70s. Um, I got hired at TSR in 1981 as an editor, and I wound up. I worked there. I was an editor. I was managing editor. Creative director of AD&D for quite a few years, um, and then eventually wound up at Wizards of the Coast, and I've been working freelance for about the last 10 or 11 years. Um, so, but that's pretty much all been revolving around D&D one way or another for, uh, you know, uh, like Jeff, closing in on 50 years. Although we'll never catch up, right?
right.
Because none of us were born in 1975.
When I was trying to write the promo text for this, I was tempted to say that D&D is 50 years old, but between the three of us, we've been working on it for more than 100 years.
yep, feels like it.
So we got Linnea and Torrance there. See, Kevin Melka has joined us. Hey, Kevin.
Evan,
Dale Donovan and Cindy are there. Hello, Dale and Cindy. Uh, hope if you all have anything you want to add to the conversation, questions, type it in the chat. I should be able to see it. Our guests may even be able to see it too. Though this is kind of tech is new to me, so I'm still working out all of what we're able to do. It's nice to have other people on with me. It's not just me talking to the camera. Stephen Chen now has joined us also. Hello, Stephen. Yeah. So, what was I going to say? Uh, so yeah. So the purpose of this show, the way I guess I'll start with, but this idea came to me. I should have had this idea in November. It would have made my life much easier, but I didn't. I had it last Wednesday, and that was with this being the 50th anniversary of D&D and me focusing more on cartooning these days, that it would be fun to do a show where each week I took a piece of classic D&D art from one of the years that D&D was around, to start at the beginning and go 1 year each week and do an interpretation of that piece of art in my style. And I've been doing live streaming with the art, so that would be a part of it. Certainly doing it. I could just draw those things and release them for everyone to see. That would probably be popular to an extent. But if I bring some of my cool friends along, they'll make me seem even cooler. I've succeeded for at least 1 week.
I was going to say, when you get some cool friends on the show, let me know and I'll watch.
yeah,
Well,
we'll watch.
until then, you're a guest, so you're going to be here either way. Yeah. So I wanted to bring you. I told you two about this over the weekend, and you confirmed for me that it was at least worth an idea worth considering or exploring, and that was enough for me. And so here we are. But we've got to settle some ground rules, right? You certainly had some questions and some ideas, and I told you to hold off so we could have those conversations here for everyone else to enjoy and be part of. So yeah, let's start with that. So what did you think when of this idea when I brought what did you think were the good parts, or what do you think the challenges, or what would you not understand? What do you hope to see? But help me figure out exactly what this program is going to be.
Well, we've had great art all the way through. It's been a major component of the fantasy of Dungeons and Dragons, and I think you doing artwork that both familiar and unfamiliar from all of the products that we've done over the years would be really, really good. Um, my big question is, where are you going to put where are you going to send the borders? We're going to talk about 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons. Are we going to talk about D&D books? Are we going to talk about licenses? Are we going to talk about comic books? I mean, where do you want to limit the edges of what is the type of stuff we're going to be talking about?
That is a good question. Steve, do you have any thoughts to what or things you
On
want to
that
start for
question,
the conversation?
um, I think what I would add, or what I want to get out there right away is, um,
Hmm.
because I know we had a little bit of conversation about this earlier. That you, I think an important part of this that people are going to want to see is not just being nostalgically reminded of our iconic art from the past, but it's that iconic art from the past filtered through the the style of Stan,
Right.
right? I mean, I think your style has
Hmm.
got to be a strong element here, because that's what your fans are here to see, right? So,
Right. Okay, and your $5 is, I'll slide it right over here. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, that's what I can't do anything but my style. It's both a plus and a minus in my artistic career. I have a very strong style, and yeah, I can't shake it. So anything I do is definitely going to be through the stand filter, which is going to bring with it some level of humor and cartooniness, but certainly, uh, I think Jeff, you were asking this a little earlier too, whether and actually I got
Hmm.
three different people send me messages with this question. They're not going to be cartoons in the same sense of the +3 back scratcher uh, from the original DMG, the single panel cartoons. They're going to be cartoony adaptations, or my style adaptations of these these pieces of art. Some one from each year.
mhm.
Um, as for Jeff's question about uh, what the boundaries are, that's a good question. My initial thought uh, for this was just D&D products, but that doesn't have to be the case. I think this this anniversary is a Dungeons and Dragons
Hmm.
anniversary, so I think that staying away from games like Marvel or even Gamma World or um, all the other games that TSR did back in the day, as much fun as that would be, I think that I'm going to put them outside the border of this show. Um, but
Okay.
after I finish 50 weeks of this, then maybe I'll dive right into that. Provided anyone wants to stick around for more. So yeah, I think that D&D products now does that include novels? What do you what are yours? What's your take? So given that basic, yeah, no, I think D&D is where we're at.
Hmm.
What do you think is uh, the what's your first pitch for me on should I involve the novel? Should I try and get it? Should it just be covers of the great product? Should it be interior pieces? Um,
I, I think that the novels, for a period there, the novels were so integrated into the game that it would not make much sense to exclude them, right? I think that they've, and that doesn't mean there's no particular novel I can, grab off the shelf and say, ooh, you've got to do this one. But yeah, I don't see any reason to just take them off, take them off the table just because they happen to be novels, right? It was all D
Yeah,
and D.
I agree with you, but I also think that by the time we got the novels up and running, we have a wide plethora of art and artists that we can talk about. So it's going to be a very
Yeah,
crowded
Yes,
year,
yeah,
once we get past 84 or so.
yeah,
And,
right.
an excellent cover I would, recommend would be the Dragons of Spring Dawning for what it stood for as far as, breaking us out
right.
in
Well,
the book trade.
exactly. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that happened that year, right?
That's
So,
yeah,
Mhm.
that's a thing. I mean, the
Well, Marvel.
um, yeah, but Marvel's now outside. Marvel's
It's now outside,
Marvel's
even
right.
though your two guests worked on it. So,
yes.
Yeah.
plug.
You know what? When we have the Marvel show, you guys are going to be regulars. It's going to be your show.
Hmm.
I'll be the guest. But yeah, I mean, you hit the. It's not such a problem in the early years, but as you say, once we hit the early '80s, there are so many products coming out that choosing one to represent each year in itself is going to be a challenge.
It's gonna be a fist fight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't think that. I think that including the novels, my gut reaction is that including the novels is great, but we're going to be looking, or I'm going to be looking for something that feels like the representative thing for that year, or one of the representative things for that year, and there's not going to be a lot of years when novel uh, a novel will probably make that final cut, right? And that's
That's
my
fair.
my gut reaction. Certainly, I think Spring Dawning is a great example. Or was it was it Spring Dawning that wasn't the first one, right? It was Autumn. No, it was
Autumn Twilight.
Autumn Twilight.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so I mean that does seem like it has a good shot. It was really iconic for that year, but there were a lot of novels. Forget every month. I remember back when I hit TSR, right? Each month we got somewhere between 7 and 10 products and 4 and 8 novels every month.
Mhm.
So that's a lot to choose from. Uh,
Yeah.
Looking over into the chat, Steve Chen says, "Talk about your first projects that excited you, contributing for D&D or TSR." Certainly. Uh, what were your first projects? When so you said you joined about 82, Jeff?
Yeah.
What was
The and I got was hired primarily on the basis of a D&D Open tournament at Gen Con. Group of friends and I were DMs there, and what for the year previous, and one of them was mouthing off afterwards, saying that wasn't a great adventure. We could write better than that. And he said it within earshot of Bob Blake, who was running the Open, and Bob spun on his heel and said, "Congratulations, you're designing the Open for next year." And we did play tested it and delivered it in like March, which was really good. So it was on the strength of that I was hired as a um, TSR designer. I had two first projects. The first one I worked on was a Boot Hill project called Burn Bush Wells with Larry Elmore art, in which I was given pieces that were designed by Brian Bloom and Alan Hammock and said, make something out of it. So we made the little town of, it was almost like a town layout of Burn Bush Wells, and the other was a random encounter chart of the entire, area. So, basically, okay, I'm going to have an adventure that basically has to start in town but takes me all over the place. But the other one was Maze of the Riddling Minotaur, which was one of those yellow magic marker games. Now you got a pen in it, and you'd basically have the box text. If you, in my case, I had a map in which you could basically, as you went through, you were clearing out the map because it was printed in a color that an invisible ink color that basically came out. Now the pens dried out. You could use, and eventually you could see the paper would age, and you could see everything that was box text as well. But that was the first one, and that had a cover by Tim Truman, comic book artist, and
Mm.
uh, just was this huge. And when we get to it, I will say yes, that's one you should take a look at. So,
I remember those. I remember those.
hmm
I remember those pens because back when I was pre D&D age, we used to take long car trips to visit my mother's family,
hmm
and there was a bunch of activity books that my parents would get for the kids that were all filled with that kind of stuff. And when I found out that D&D did a module like that too, it's like, first of all, I thought cool, and then I thought, oh no, not cool, because I
it
knew
was a
what the
solo
aging
adventure.
was going to do because I'd seen it happen.
hmm
Right, this is just going to get yellow, and then you're just going to be able to read it.
And we shrink wrapped it, and it was always tough shrink wrapping it over a pen, and the pens got broken out, and it was all sorts of challenges.
Right.
So
The
new
shrink
tech.
wrapping would get broken in the boxes because of things
Mhm.
being squeezed together.
How about you, Steve?
Your
What
turn,
was
Steve.
your first project or your early
I was
project?
thinking about that while Jeff was talking a little bit. The first D&D projects I worked on um, were not exciting. They actually I spent my first several months at TSR just thinking about how long am I going to put up with this before I quit because because I was not at all excited about my early projects. I had my first project was editing Bone Hill, which I did not think was a
Ooh.
good adventure. I think my second project was editing or putting together the monster cards, which I know I've talked since to a lot of people who just loved the
hmm
monster cards, but trying
That's
to
on my
take
list too.
an
hmm
enormous monster description from the monster manual and condense it down to where it will fit on a 3x5 card it was a nightmare. I hated that project. So um, the first thing I can think of that I was really excited to work on was the Gangbusters role playing game. Working on that with Mark Akers, that I had a great time working on that, and I'm sure there were probably other things I did before then that I enjoyed, but I don't remember what they were. None of them stand out in my memory the way Gangbusters does.
Awesome.
Yeah, and both Steve and I,
Steve.
we joined, were at the old Hotel Claire in downtown Lake Geneva. That's where we were based. We were on the
Mhm.
third floor. And we've tried to piece together what the layout was and who was sitting there, and we haven't been horribly successful. But soon after I got there, we moved to the Sheridan Springs office, and we were in a windowless, large vault with some very small cubes, and
Is the
that's where we
Sheridan
started
Springs
up.
office, is that the Q-tip factory one, or was there one
That's the
before that?
Q-tip factory, milk carton factory. I've heard, but yes, that's the building that we were in, and we were on
That's
this
the
on
place
the
that I worked.
we
Yeah,
were on the loft
there were
above the
actually
assembly area. hmm
yeah, and there was another building um, out in that area. There was a building next door to the building
hmm
where you were stand. It had been uh, a shop that did upholstery, custom van upholstery. and and some of the like sales and marketing offices were in there when we first moved out there. John Danovich had hilarious stories because, of course, like the front office of this place had been a showroom for the kind of thing they did. So the whole place was like padded in vinyl with like the inside of a custom van, um, and it was crazy. There were outlets in the floor. When they got heavy rain, it would flood, and the outlets were all underwater. People had to wear baggies on their feet so they wouldn't get electrocuted. It was it was ridiculous.
And who? So I mean, that sounds even more dangerous than when someone fell through the roof back at the Hotel Claire.
Several people have, and who did it basically depends on who you're talking to. So, because there were holes. The thing was, the third floor was, a room, and in basically the front of it was a ballroom. And when they renovated it, they put a false ceiling over it with stringers, and designers and others would get up on top and jump from stringer to stringer, and occasionally they would miss. So there were several offices with holes in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Steve Sen says, "I hope they had at least one airbrushed wizard on the wall of the game cafe somewhere."
No, I don't think so. I think it was all upholstery.
Yeah,
So,
we had the Volkswagen building too, didn't we? It was
yes,
a
yeah, we
Volkswagen
did have that
thing that became.
Volkswagen. It had been a Volkswagen dealership that was
Yeah.
behind the main building for quite a few years, and then they sold that off because we never used it for anything. But every now
No.
and then there were meetings back there. That was it.
Mhm.
Creativity Playground asks, "Are your guests going to create art as well? I'm hoping to hear behind the scenes stories as you all draw." So today there's not actually going to be any drawing. This is kind of a launch program. We've started talking a little bit, kind of narrowing the definition of what the show is going to be, and then we're going to spend a little time in a while picking out which pieces I'm going to do over the first few shows. And when that happens, I I don't think that my I can get a lot of people to come on and tell old stories. I'm not sure how many people I can get to come on who would be willing to draw in public. Me, I got no shame. So yeah, no. The plan is my drawings will be on screen, and so will the guests, and we'll have conversations and drawings. Stephen Chen says we need Jeff Grubb Day cards to send to our friends. Maybe that can be a side hustle. One to come up.
Yeah, exactly.
What month was Jeff Grubb Day? Oh, so tell a quick story
It's
about what
coming up.
is Jeff Grubb Day.
Oh gosh. Um, well, Jeff Grubb Day. Well, it came about. Well, came about because somebody was pretending to be me. A convention in um, Texas called and said that basically they had a couple who basically wanted to get in free to the conventions, claiming they were Jeff Grubb, that Jeff Grubb was a house name. That basically, and they were a previous Jeff Grubb, but they are not the current Jeff Grubb. But Jeff Grubb does is an imaginary character. And I got on the phone with them and said, "Yes, I'm Jeff Grubb. There's only been one of me. I'm the guy who's been writing this. These people are you know trying to get into your convention."
No
So
one
Ann
person could
Brown,
possibly write all that stuff.
exactly, that was part of their logic. Ann Brown was within earshot. Editor Ann Brown was within earshot of this, and of course, it got out to the rest of the gang, and so we had Jeff Grubb Day, where everyone wore name tags that say, "Hi, I'm Jeff Grubb." And
Except
the
you.
management, Will McDermott, who was our VP of finance, had it underneath his tie, and he would flash it to people. So we
Will
had
what?
Jeff Grubb Day. Will
Will Martin.
Martins. Did I say
Yeah.
not Tyson Niebling?
No, it said
I
Will McDermott,
apologize.
who is a great,
McDermott, who is a great
friend of
guy as
ours,
well.
but not an
So,
old TSR
but he
member.
was an old TSR. He's a good guest. Anyway, so um, so this was like one of Steve Shen's first days at TSR, and everybody he was introduced to was Jeff Grubb. And all the meeting notes for that day said, attending Jeff Grubb, Jeff Grubb, Jeff Grubb, and Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb made this suggestion, but Jeff Grubb thought this was a horrible idea. So he comes, he comes back to where he's sharing a place with, I think it was Lester Smith at the time, an apartment, a part of a duplex. And no, I think it was Rob King actually. And Rob said, "Hey, go talk to our next door neighbors," and because they work there as well. And he goes over and he's introduced to Jeff Grubb. And hilarity evolved. And this is the creation of Jeff Grubb Day, a very small celebration every year. So
Do you remember what day that? I think I've got it on my personal calendar somewhere. Um, But it's
Steve, what
not a
day was it?
terrible
It's this
idea of
week, isn't
creating
it?
Jeff
It's
Grubb
coming up.
Day.
I don't remember. Ann Brown or Stephen Shend would remember, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and Stephen Chen has left the building. Oh, Stephen.
Oh,
Look what
he
you've done to
fled.
us.
yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can figure this out.
Oh, I had a Facebook posting. Hang on. From Steven basically reminding me that it's coming up.
I am Jeff Grubb Day. Oh, it's coming up fast. It's
Yeah,
February 8th.
I was going to say,
February
there's
8th.
probably
I
a
knew it was early
Wikipedia
February.
page about Jeff Grubb Day. So,
Oh God.
Oh man, I gotta
So maybe we won't get the cards for this year, obviously, but
get
this is
get
something to
them
put
ready
in the
for
put in the
next year.
hopper.
yeah.
Let's see. Torin had to leave. Torin and Steve, thank you for showing up. Hopefully, you guys can make it to one of the future shows. But thank you for being here for this one. And Lala is here. Hey, Lala. Lala's a friend of mine from the Philippines, who's gotten up early to come and join us here in the show. So thank you for coming by, Lala. All right, so we've got an idea that the that it's we're going to focus on D&D products. Amy asked, did I read the novels prior to drawing? Did you have to read the novels prior to drawing the art? The artist never read any of the products. In fact, very often the covers were being painted while the products were being written.
Right.
We
were
would have
lucky if we could
prototype
get them
covers.
to. We were lucky if we could get them to read a 3-sentence art description.
And sometimes they would put things in the art that we would then fold
Right.
into the story itself.
You'd
Right.
finish your manuscript and then get a note back. Say, okay, well, somewhere in here you got to get this because it's on the
Yeah.
cover.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a ghost horse in there somewhere because there's a ghost horse in the illustration.
We did prototype art, particularly for before the artists began, where they did color sketches, and often this would find its way into the various TSR catalogs, particularly if it was for late in the year. They'd have the finished art ready and for the stuff in January, but by the time you get to November, not so much. So you saw a lot of prototype art in a lot of our products, and so they were generating that even then at that beginning.
I mean that's a factor of, I mean, that's so pre-internet, right? Back in the days when you had
Oh
to
yeah.
put that together, a catalog for the
Mm-hmm.
year, and
Yes.
it had to be done in October of the year before, so it could be printed, or earlier, right? So it could be ready for January products. And as you were just saying, Jeff, sometimes the covers were underway, and sometimes they just had sketch paintings and concept art.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, at least I know from being a fan, there were times when the final product would come out and the painting was clearly better and more rendered, but I liked that, whatever that thing was, and it shows up nowhere. It's not anywhere. It was just a piece of
It
concept art.
disappears. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of the. We had such a great artistic team at TSR that even their roughs were really wonderful pieces of illustration. So
True, and that back up here away somewhere in the comment, someone was saying that I should, over the course of the year, try to do homages to all of the artists. Make sure we get something from each of the great TSR artists in there. And
yes,
I mean, if all I do is covers, that would still be a challenge because we've had a lot, right? But this brings the next question of covers are one thing, but a lot of the great D&D art, a lot of the pieces that are really memorable were also interior pieces. So
Right.
I'm thinking those have to at least be on the table.
I agree.
Yeah, I do too.
Um,
So you just expanded the number of choices by a factor of 5.
Right, at least.
Mhm.
um, so yeah, this is boy. I didn't know I was making so much trouble for myself. Maybe I should cancel this whole thing. Too late now. It's happening.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, my very first interaction with this kind of thing was a couple of years ago when I did a couple of live streams back before that was a word that people used of of Stanish versions of two pieces of interior art from early products. And let me see if I can pull these up on um, my computer here. And we're going to switch over to this view. And one of them was based off this piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the spell that goes with? It's just
Otto's
Autolux
irresistible
Otto's
advance.
irresistible
irresistible
band. Now
advance.
these days it's
Mhm.
just they got rid of Otto. But I
Mm.
did my version of it was like that. So you see, right?
The newer
Definitely
Umberhulk.
humorous.
Mhm.
It's no really more humorous than the other one, but certainly my style.
Mhm.
Um, and then the next one was
I would just throw in there that I always hated the way they changed Zorns.
Umberhulks.
That's not on you, Stan. I don't know who made the decision to make Zorns look more like bugs, but I never approved. Wasn't
Umber
my
Hulks.
idea.
You talking about Umber Hulks?
Or Umber Hulks. Sorry, not Zorns.
Um, yeah. And then the other one was based off this Roper drawing, which I think was from the Rogues Gallery. I don't remember where this came from exactly.
Yeah, I think that was the cover of the Rogues Gallery, wasn't it?
Um,
Obviously by
I don't
Arrow.
think so.
and I did I did that. So again, one of the things I think I'm going to also make them all square, just for keeping them all the same size, regardless of where they come from, and
Mhm.
yeah, and for the idea of the possible art collection book that might come at the end of this project if more than 15 people like it. Um, Creativity Playground says, "Is this going to be a daily live stream so I can cover a lot of art?" No. Tell you what, get
I
fifteen
do,
hundred of your
Stan.
your closest friends to give me $10 a month, and the answer will be yes. I get me $150,000 a month, and I'll do it. But or even what? No, that'd be 10,000. I'll still do
15,000.
it for 10,000 a month.
Yeah.
But until we hit that level, it's once a week, which is why the challenge of figuring out what to draw becomes so big. Um, Sorry, I've got some notes here to myself that I want to make sure I'm not skipping over.
Okay. I was gonna say, you want to start?
Yeah, well, that's the next thing we should do is figure out what the first few things are. It'll help me for planning out the next.
Hmm.
This is kind of seat of the pants here today, and it's because a week ago this idea hadn't even popped out of my head. But going forward, I need to start being a little more organized, knowing what I'm going to draw. So let's start thinking about what might be good pieces for those early years. Right. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna do one a year. So next week,
You
when we come back,
start 74.
it's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
1974.
Right.
Have long
And there's
hair
just
and bell bottoms.
yeah.
Everything's gonna be
And
groovy.
yep. And
Yes,
Dale
one
S.
there's
piece
will
of
be
not
art
a
for
lot
a
to
year.
choose from, unfortunately, as far as art in 1974.
Yeah, Dale S. will
Because you
be
got
one
one
piece of
product,
art
Steve
from
noted.
each year. And the answer is yes, that's the concept. Is that each week will represent a year, and I'll do one piece to represent that year. And we'll do this for 50 weeks. Um, Again, as I was saying before, this being popular and people being willing to throw money at me will entice me to do more of it. But to start with, it's going to be one piece of art per year, per week.
Yeah. And so here's a question, and it's a serious question.
Huh?
It so much of the illustration in the original box, and even I
Hmm.
was even looking at like chainmail,
Right.
Yeah,
which has that wonderful. Hope it's not all washed out there. I can't
it's all
see.
Yeah.
shiny. Yeah,
Got the
there you go.
that picture of the Crusader fighting the Saracens. Um, but so much of that art was was copies of other art, right? The copy of
Yes,
chainmail, the
Yeah.
cover of chainmail is a copy. uh, the cover of the original D&D box is a copy of some comic
the
book
little
art,
brown box.
right?
Yeah,
And I mean, I guess,
and I mean, given what it was at the time, which was, you're printing up, 200, 100, 200 copies to basically sell at wargaming conventions. It's very much coming out of its fanzine type of, background where,
well, right,
you get
right.
someone who
I'm
can
not.
at least reproduce something, and that's our art area. Hmm. Steve, have we lost
Steve
you?
is he's gotten so upset
He's
that he's
frozen.
thrown himself at the screen. um, well,
We could freeze as well.
yeah, it's like the end of a
Naked Gun,
police
yeah.
squad
Police
show.
Squad.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, So, oh wait, so Lala says make it happen. Stan has a Patreon account. So before this,
Little
I'm
plug.
going to throw this out here for everyone to know. Not only do I have a Patreon, I'm not saying don't go there because I'd love for people to join my Patreon, but I am starting a Substack for specifically for this show, and it's going to be at 50 years in the dungeon.substack.com. It's open now, though I haven't. I've just put it together this afternoon, so it's just bare bones. Uh, it's a free Substack, so Steve is gone. So
Okay.
I'm
He's probably
going
trying to
to.
get back in.
What should I do here? Oh, I'm not panicking. I'm gonna switch us over to this layout, so it's just you and
Okay.
me. We don't have to look at that empty box. When Steve comes back,
Hmm. We'll
we'll
put
get
him
him.
back on.
Um,
Quick, let's make decisions without him.
so yeah, so put the 50 years in the dungeon.substack.com, and it's free to join, as Substacks are. I'm going to open up paid levels, and what I'm going to do is each month for for everyone from the free, all anyone who subscribes at any level, I'm going to pick one person and send them a signed print of one of the pieces that I did over the course of that month. The paid levels are going to come with guarantee that you'll get that art. Right, that's what you're going to get out of paying for that. The details on that not worked out exactly, except for that free part. Right, you can sign up for free now, and uh, probably wait until the end of February because here at the end of January I don't have anything. But at the end of February, for everyone that signed up, I'll randomly pick one person, and I will do a print of one of the. I'll get a print made of one of the drawings that have been done, and will send it to that person out of the goodness of my heart, and the
Okay.
hope to entice more people to sign up.
something we haven't argued.
So
Kevin mentions, what about the magazines?
what about the magazines? Yeah. Once we get the magazines in, there's even more great
Hmm.
art. So yeah, I think the
Exactly.
magazines should
Hmm.
totally be part and up for consideration. And
Hmm.
yeah, those some of those covers are often the most iconic images of their years, or among them.
Exactly. I always
So
like
yeah,
Dungeon One. So,
that's
hmm
that's a toughie.
so
All
you want to
right,
argue about 1974?
so let's talk about 1974, and we
Okay.
can make some decisions while Steve's not
It
here.
was a glorious year. We were coming up on the bicentennial.
Right. So 74 basically just has the intro box.
The box.
Um,
Hmm.
hmm?
Yeah. So, but you aren't just limited to the box cover, the little
Right.
brown box. By the way, the little brown box, I have downstairs a set of Tractics, which was their tank rules, which is in the same style of box. So it was tank miniatures. So the idea, you had the little brown box, you can put the sticker on it, and boom, you're ready to go. So,
All right. Looks like Steve
so
may be back.
are you okay?
He's in the green room, which means if I come back here, Steve is back with us.
Hey,
Hey, Steve.
Hey, sorry, I have no idea what happened. It's a little bit windy here, which means that who knows whether the internet will survive.
It was great though because you froze like you were trying to dive through the camera. It was
Yeah, I everything froze up on my screen, and I just kept talking for probably another 30 seconds before I started to wonder. I wonder if I'm dead. And then I saw the little "You've lost the internet" icon popping up on my computer.
well. I'm sorry. I was glad you got it back quickly. I was saying before we got going live, I was telling them that I was having that problem last night, and it was unclear what would happen if my internet cut out. Thankfully, so far we haven't had to find out. So Amy says that she's looking forward to the show, but she has to leave for now. Thank you for dropping by, Amy. Very much appreciated, and look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks for coming by. All right, so we were just starting to talk about 1974, and then Jeff
hmm
started talking about tanks,
yes,
which are
because
we're going to say
the little brown
outside
box,
the parameters.
yeah. hmm So
Um,
Tractics is off the list.
right, but you were saying that we there. It's not just the box cover. There is other art to consider for.
Yeah.
There is other art. I mean, the cover, I think, is iconic.
Hmm.
It's, and I think, as John Peterson and others have pointed out, it has a previous life in a Doctor Strange comic book.
Hmm.
Um, and it always reminded me of, like, that great old uh, portrait of Napoleon on the rearing horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know,
Yeah, with his
so
cloak swirling.
thematically,
Yeah.
that's where Gene Colan, got it from. So, it's just,
So
but yes,
the this we're talking about this piece here, right?
Yep.
yeah, we're
Yep.
talking about that piece.
One I won't call it a stumbling block because you're a talented illustrator, Stan, and I'm sure you can
Yeah,
make it work. But pretty much all the illustrations in that original game are just one figure. There's nothing actually
yes.
happening in
Right.
any of them. Uh,
Mhm.
so,
That's one of the more
so
active pieces. So yeah, but we've got,
right,
like,
yeah, and
the
that's
cover
actually
of,
quite a good one. The guy and the horse rearing up, and the guy looking kind of startled on the horse.
Right.
I'm trying to get it centered. There we go. That's the Men in Magic,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which
and
is just
what
a
I was
guy.
saying when I got cut off was that, uh, Jeff. I think Jeff Bell was the name of that illustrator who did so much of
Greg
that.
Bear,
That
Greg Bell.
he Greg Bell. He gets a certain amount of abuse, I think, for the fact that so many of them are clearly heavily inspired by bits of comic book art. But my understanding is, in a lot of cases, he was asked for those things on such short notice that's like there wasn't a lot of time for anything, but to pull out something else and kind of copy it.
Yeah. And while you were gone, I was mentioning that, of course, for this era, you're going to make 200 copies, take them to a convention, and some to other aficionados of miniature games. And this
Right.
is very much coming out of that self-published fanzine sort of era. Now that's a
Yeah,
later one,
exactly. Right.
and that's
And I
that's
doubt
that's a
that
nice piece.
Bell was paid more than about $2 or $3 a piece for those illustrations either.
I think he was
So,
paid. So who did that one? Do you know, Stan?
I, I don't know.
it-
Not a that's
yeah, I
not a
was
very good
wondering
photo
that
right
too.
there.
I don't know who did that particular one. I was looking at that earlier. Although I don't think that Illo was even published in 1974, if you care about
No, it
that. That was
wasn't.
on the reissue that came several years later.
It went through a number of print runs, and then they went to a different box style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I hear a
Excuse
cat.
me, I've got a cat that's being noisy. Okay.
The cat wants to be an internet star. Um, yeah, I think my gut instinct, although that the Men in Magic uh, fighter guy is probably a better drawing, I think that the purloined guy on the horse is a more active, more fun to reinterpret.
Yeah. This Tom
Because Tom
Wam
Wam,
Illo is one of the few with multiple figures in it.
right?
But being Tom Wam, it, it's probably a poor choice because you're kind of doing a cartoony version of something that's
Right.
already
It's like
cartoony.
it's loses some of the cool the cool like it's probably a better cartoon if Tom did it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
Tom is still around. You could just get Tom on as a guest and have him do one.
I've never met Tom.
Huh?
It's
Actually, one that occurred to me merely because it's so odd. See if we can get
here we
this one
go.
up there.
Well,
This
this
picture
box is
of
pretty old. This is a pretty discolored box there.
God damn it. This sorry. This
No
mirror
cussing.
reverse thing going on here is really confusing me. This Illo that was labeled elf, which looks for all the world like a dwarf,
Yeah,
would be in it, right? It's a bearded, short elf. Would be an interesting one to revisit as well.
the dwarf elf,
Yeah,
the dwelf.
yeah. It's a half elf, but the other half is dwarf.
Um, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I think between the guy, the knight on the horse, and the dwelf, I think one of those maybe we can leave a little bit. I can leave a little bit of mystery. I think one of those will be my 1974.
Yeah, or
Uh,
you could do a mashup, right? You could have the dwelf stand in front of the horse.
that could be what's making the horse rear up.
Right. The horse is like, whoa, that's an elf, but it has a beard.
All right. So, what about 75? What came out in 75?
Well, Greyhawk and
Big. Oh yeah, 75 was not much, right? There's Greyhawk and Blackmore.
yeah. Well, actually, Blackmore, there's a very cool picture, as I recall, of the Frog Temple in Blackmore that might be kind of fun.
And Greyhawk has that. We were looking at it on Saturday. That strange cover of the guy and the beholder, the very derpy looking beholder.
Yes, the weird beholder.
Let's see if I
And
can.
when was Eldritch Wizardry? Was that not until a year later?
That was the next
No.
year.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not Dreamhook Digest. Going to get me something else. Original booklet.
76.
Here we go. Yeah, this fighter and a derpy beholder. Jeff, you're muted again.
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted now. I thinking Jeff has nothing to say
Okay.
about this, and I
No,
looked up and I saw your lips move.
no wonder. No wonder. I'm basically saying things, and then suddenly Steve says them as well. And I'm okay. Maybe he just wasn't paying attention. No, that's quite
And,
all right.
actually, Blackmore has some pretty decent illustrations in it. It could be, you could, I think there's some fertile ground in Blackmore.
Now, let's see if I can make this one work.
Whoa.
This from Greyhawk. I mean, come on, the game lizard. Inside back cover.
Oh, yes, that's actually one thing I was going to recommend. The Lizard Man logo is probably would be my number one pick. And I think that was 75 when the Lizard Man logo came into use.
Lizard Man logo showed up on Blackmore. But the Lizard Man logo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Comes in from the inside front cover of Greyhawk.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, that Lizard Man logo is so iconic. I think that is probably the most iconic illustration from that year.
All right, so that's probably like 1975. I'm gonna make notes in my notebook. Got an actual note. Got a notebook I picked up while I was at Wizards. They had them printed with the Green Man's the Green Demon's face on it.
Oh yeah, which is what 1978, 79.
There's another one which I think is Greyhawk. I think another one is Greyhawk is the big bugbear, the pumpkin-headed bugbear.
The infamous pumpkin-headed bugbear. The
story
on that was supposedly that Gary asked for an illo of a bugbear with a great big head like a pumpkin, which he just meant to be a great big head, not a head that looks like a pumpkin.
I love it. And Chaosium did a miniature with the pumpkin-headed bugbear.
Yeah.
Unofficially, but that one does. That is a group shot. The fact that bugbear, ghoul, and friends, which I don't know. That one's a snake, and I don't know if the other one's a gargoyle or something. But so that one definitely put that into your
all right, so
operation.
74 we had the horse rider. What was the other one that we were considering?
The horse and the bearded elf.
Oh, bearded elf.
Bearded elf.
All right. So 75 we got. I think of those, the Lizard Man seems to be the choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. Though I think you'd have fun with pumpkin-headed bugbear.
I think that would be fun too. But again, now I'm kind of rolling on this path between what's fun, what's funny, and what most people would consider iconic.
I think a game lizard makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that there are more people that will remember that than will remember the other things. The Dwelp in 74, says Don Dale. Thank you.
And that Lizard Man was just so cool, right?
It was.
Kevin Melka says must do Palace of the Vampire Queen in '76.
Hmm.
I don't even remember Palace of the Vampire Queen. What is
No,
Kevin
of course.
talking about?
It was like the very first D&D adventure ever,
Hmm.
as I recall.
But it wasn't TSRs.
But yeah,
Was
it
it
was not
not?
published by
Was it not
TSR.
TSR? Then we're not. We're sticking
No.
with
Not TSR.
TSR. I think that's the other
Okay.
thing. We
Because there are cool things that were done
yes,
outside.
yes. I mean that's a decision we probably. I think I meant to bring up earlier in the hour, where are we just going to stick to TSR products? Because once we open up, particularly with Judges Guild and stuff in this era,
Hmm.
there's a lot of D&D stuff. And then again, when we hit the D20 era,
Mm-hmm.
that is D&D, but not Wizards. So
I,
I
I, I
Yeah.
will admit I had all the world's monsters on my list
yeah,
for like 77 or so, which was an early Chaosium.
yeah.
So
No, there's a lot of great stuff, but again, so many choices already. I think that I'm going to set those barriers up for this
okay.
project, and I already know that I'm going to have a blast doing these drawings, and that if we succeed in getting thousands of people to give me a little money, that I would happily do more of them and have a great
Mm-hmm.
time with it the entire way.
Before we move off 75,
Yes.
I will throw one more into your mix. I think you've got better choices. There's an Umber Hulk from Blackmore.
Yeah, the
The
Umber
Blackmore
Hulk is
cover,
also very cool.
yeah, that was probably the best illo
All right.
of that
Well,
booklet.
I'll have to. I don't remember that one, so I'll have to either look that up if I can find my
It's
copies or
it's
just come over to your
it's
house.
the original chonky Umber Hulk.
Yeah, the big thick. And there's a very cool kind of necromancer looking wizard with a crystal ball uh, and a familiar imp type familiar that would be. It's actually again it's pretty on page 10 I think of uh, of Blackmore.
Digging him out.
Is
No,
Blackmore?
but on
I don't
I'm
page
think
looking
it's.
I'm
11,
looking at a PDF, so the page numbers may be different. But,
Is
and on
Blackmore
page 11 we
75
have
or
a
76?
if it's Blackmore, it's 75.
yeah, yeah. The Umber Hulk
We
is a
do have
very
something
cool game
that's
cover.
actually a little more dynamic,
Mhm.
which is a nice piece. But again, I think what you've gotten in the queue already is quite nice. Oh, here's our
All
friend
right.
the Umber Hulk.
All right. Let's jump to set. You know what? I think we're getting on the hour.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's
Yep.
try and get through 79 or 1980. I guess once we hit
Okay.
70, when did the hardcover start? 77 or 78?
The Monster Manual was 77.
All right, so I think, and here's one. So let's do 76 and then have a quick conversation about the hardcovers, and then we can wrap
Okay.
this up so I don't keep you
Right.
guys too long.
Okay.
So 76. Um, we had
Eldritch Wizardry.
Eldritch Wizardry with the naked lady draped across
Naked
the
Lady. I'm
office,
just
right? We
just
got
putting it out there. But it was
gods.
also full color. It's
It
also full
is.
color. And I assume that what you're going to be doing is black and white as opposed to a full color
I don't
rendition.
know. I
Okay.
mean, the um, the two I showed already are in color, right? It didn't
Hmm.
take that much longer. I don't know that I can finish a full color drawing in an hour, but I can certainly do more than just a line drawing. And once we get beyond the 70s, most of the art is going to wind up being color, and
Right.
so I think that I will probably colorize these, like I did with the Umber Hulk, the Dancing Umber Hulk, and the Roper that I was showing earlier.
Okay.
That's my
Dave
inclination.
Dave Lemon
Dave Lemon,
posted a list of
there we go.
of 76.
Thank you,
Eldritch
Dave.
Wizardry, Gods, Demigods, and Heroes, Swords and Spells, the Geomorphs,
Right.
and Basic, and yeah, the Geomorphs set 1 Basic Dungeon.
Right. Well,
So,
geomorphs. I really don't feel like drawing triangles, so that's out. That was a weird product. Swords and spells. If I remember correctly, the cover for that is just a mess.
oh, I
Uh,
like the art for the cover of that. It was
it's
very,
a
it was
it's like a
dynamic.
it's like a burning scroll with armies
Yes,
coming through
on
it.
it. And the frame was okay, but really like the art for it.
And
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
I
have a
don't have
copy
a
here.
copy of it, so I'm not even sure what's in it. I don't even have a PDF of it. I thought I did, but apparently I don't.
There we go. This is what it looks like. Come back over to its other view.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe,
Oh, I take it back. I do have a PDF of it.
maybe. You know what? I remember that
Okay.
as being more of a mess than it is. That's a pretty of the other covers we've been looking at and pieces which are basically one character. This is the first one that's really
Right.
a scene. In fact, all three of these,
Exactly.
even the naked lady on the altar, is a scene,
Hmm.
right? And then gods, demigods, and heroes is that Egyptian. It looks like a cartouche.
Yeah, and that's an
Yeah,
excellent piece as well.
it
But again,
And
it's
is.
there's
basically a particular
one.
style.
I had been leaning
There
towards
are
that. Go
there
ahead.
are some
Mhm.
cool things in swords and spells too. There's like a giant kicking its way through some barricades. There's a knight on horseback spearing a dragon. Um, a variety of kind of cool Dave Sutherland illos in here that you could do something with. I quite like the giant kicking its way through the barricade.
Can you show that one?
I don't know.
Okay. There's also this weird one from as far as, like everything else has been I just want to know where this came from. This was this a piece of, clip art that was just, available? Do we have someone who
What's that?
drew that?
What's that in?
It was Odin. It's in Gods, Demigods, and Heroes. It's the last
Oh,
page.
okay, okay.
Huh.
So
No, no, I
All right.
can't. I can't hold this one up to the screen because I'm looking at a PDF. So
that's cool.
Okay. All right. So I think I've got
Okay.
narrowed
So
down to at least one or two choices for 74, 75, and 76.
and
So
we do know somebody who has a copy of Swords and Spells, so
yeah, yeah.
because he had it on Saturday night. So
Because he showed it to us on Saturday night.
yep.
yep.
So yeah. So one more question, and then we'll wrap up, and that is beginning in 77, one per year.
Hmm.
Uh, the original three hardcovers come out,
Yeah.
and in
And
77, the original was it
Holmes
77
Basic.
or 78, the Holmes edition box set, which, as I
yeah,
was
yeah,
It
saying,
was
all
Holmes.
is hugely
77.
important to me. That illustration
Yes,
means a ton to me.
yes. I would say. I mean, in terms of D&D history, the blue box is probably more important than the monster manual. Even.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I so I'm leaning that way for 77, going with that Holmes
Yeah,
edition, uh, Errol Otis Dragon. Um,
Dave Sutherland. You mean?
Sutherland, yes, I did. Sorry, excuse me, Dave Sutherland. Which WizKids just announced, or I guess WizKids announced it. Wizards
Yeah.
announced it.
Whiz
They,
Kids.
they're putting out they're putting out a mini of that, which looks
Hmm.
amazing. It captures the Dave Sutherlandness of it, and yet it's still an actual physical object. It's great.
Yeah.
Just as a note from the outside world, All the World's Monsters was that year, and Arduin Grimoire.
Well, it's a good year.
Hmm.
It's when things start
So
to really go.
this is where we start expanding out. You're seeing a lot of the people getting involved in D&D. The fandom is awake.
Um,
Yep.
so, but then for 78, 78 and 79. We got the Player's Handbook.
Ooh,
And my
yes.
question about that is that's been done and redone. The cover of that has been
Mm-hmm.
iterated and homaged and used in so many different ways. Does that is that just no longer worth doing, or it's
I
the one that has to be done?
I have a version with teddy bears downstairs in my hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Um, I mean, I
I
think
think
you can
there are some
go.
other options. Okay, I'm looking for it.
Yeah, the DMG, the big Efreet. I think that would
Yeah.
look pretty cool
Yeah.
in a stained yellow.
Right.
Um,
That's one that hasn't been because it's not quite as applicable to a lot of people's games. That's an image that hasn't been homaged as much, and I'm feeling pretty strongly that that's probably the one to do
yeah.
for 80
One of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite illos from
or
these
70.
books is
Other way.
this one.
Yeah.
Am I lined up? If you
Yep.
can see it without the light, that the undead guy, the ghostly undead guy on the shore of you know, on the shore as the boat sails by. I always thought that was really evocative.
Well, we do have a couple other options from the player's handbook.
Yeah.
The Paladin in Hell.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I had
And
already
then
been
there's what?
planning. That was going to be the next one I did when I was doing those others. So yeah, that eventually became a cover when we did
Hmm?
the product, the Paladin and Hell product
We
back
did a
once again.
paladin in hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
You redid it, yeah. The and I can't find it here. I think it's in here. It's what? Uh Emma Cole the Chaotic, the Wizard on Horseback.
Americal the Chaotic by Tramp.
The
Yeah,
one
is that
riding
in
through
here?
the street.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Which was a real
That's it.
street, and
It's in
other
the
people have
DM.
Yeah.
taken the same photo. It's in the
It's in the
GMG?
DMG. I don't know which book
Okay.
you're looking at. It's in the back of the
I was
DMG
looking at the
hub.
player's handbook. I was looking for something for this year. But yeah,
Yeah.
Paladin in Hell is an iconic piece. It was
Yes,
redone for
Paladin in Hell
the
would be a great one.
mhm.
See if I can get Emericol lined up.
Yeah.
Why my light is just all screwed up.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
All I get
As
is
usual.
glare when I try to show things. So forget that.
As Jeff
Okay.
was saying, that's a real street. Somewhere
Yes.
about 6 months ago, someone
Yeah,
online just posted a photo of that street from that angle.
yeah,
That
yeah. It's
same
like
angle.
in
Here we go.
Greece or Malta or Corfu or someplace like
Rose
that.
or somewhere. There we go.
Yeah.
For those who have not seen it. So,
Yeah, that
but
was
yes, and
certainly the first time I got my hands on the DMG. I think I stared at that image for hours. I just thought it was fantastic.
and 78 also saw the G series
Right.
and the early D
That's
series.
Kevin just said that 78
Yeah.
something from the
hmm
Giants or Drow series.
And Drow.
Yeah,
hmm
Yeah. All right. So we've got it narrowed down to just a few choices. So
hmm
I guess people don't know exactly what's going to happen. But thank you
Suspense.
for helping me get this far. I think we'll wrap it up here. Again, we've gone a little longer than intended, but enough just so that it's like a bonus for everyone, and you guys are still free to have the rest of your evenings. Thank you for showing up for me. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everyone that showed up in the live chat. Too many people to name here, but a lot of old friends from TSR days, and a lot of fans from current days, and a few new people too. So, thank you. We'll be back. I'll be back next week. I'm not sure. Maybe Jeff or Steve, if they are feeling kind towards me, will be guest again. And do the first drawing. We're going to do either the warrior on the horse or the bearded elf from the original
Or both.
D&D box set. Until then, I want to remind everyone that there is a Substack for this show, 50 years in the dungeon.substack.com. You can sign up for free. If you go there right now, there's nothing to look at, but I'm going to be making a post real soon. And if you are, if you join that, even at the free level, once a month during the course of this challenge, this show, um, this project. Once a month, I'm going to pick randomly a name from someone who's a subscriber and send that person a print of one of the pieces of art that gets done as part of the show. And there will be levels that you can sign up for that you can pay for, where you'll be guaranteed to get those prints. So again, as Lala had suggested earlier, the more people that do that, the more likely there'll be more art to choose from. Just a little enticement. I'm not saying it's all about the money, but come on. Jeff and Steve, again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your friendship over all these years. And
Thank you. It's good to be here.
it looked like I thought Steve had frozen for a minute. I said, I appreciate your friendship, and he's like,
You stunned him.
Stan's being grateful. What's up with that? Yeah. So I guess another thing, people who are watching now, you can leave in the comments suggestions if you're not watching live, suggestions for things you'd like to see drawn, and I'll keep track of those for consideration, either here in these early years or later on. If you want to start suggesting things for the 1990s, I'm going to get there eventually. Uh, or if you want to suggest people you'd like to see me have on as guests, because the plan is to have one or two people on each week to talk to while I'm doing the drawing. Unlike this week, drawing will get done from now on. So, yeah, thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate it. And come on back next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific for another one of the 50 years in the dungeon. Thank you very much.